to yet another episode. What happened? Where's my? There it is. To yet another episode of Redstone Lapis Lazuli. It is I, your host, Pogo Kiddo. Yo, what's up? And I'm here today. Yes, let's check out the flag of Ukraine. That's right, Ukraine continuing its counter-offensive against the Russian invasion. And as Ukraine retakes its territory, it's finding mass graves of civilians that were slaughtered by the Russians. And basically, it's a war crime. It's a war crime. And the Ukrainians knew that's what was going to happen to them. That's why they kept asking everybody to send help because they knew what was going to happen to them. It has already happened to them before. It already happened before. 1930s with Stalin. Stalin came in and took all the food out of Ukraine and sent it to Moscow. And all the Ukrainians died. Not all of them, but a lot of them starved to death. It's called the Great Hunger. Yeah. Yeah. So the Ukrainians already knew what the Russians were going to do once they got there because they've done it before. So as the Ukrainians continue their counteroffensive, they're finding new sites of mass graves and torture rooms where the people of Ukraine were tortured and killed, and then their remains were hidden so that evidence of the war crimes would be hidden. So yeah. So why am I opening with Ukraine today, this morning? All right, well, here, let me continue the next part. So here's the continuance of the counteroffensive. Right? So at one point, the Russians were knocking on the door of Kharkiv. And since then, the counteroffensive pushed back, captured this major important town, which is the railroads. Once they got this town, what is that? How do you say it? Kupiansk. That's like a major railroad hub that fed all the southern and eastern states from Russia. So once this was taken, it collapses. Everything collapses. You can see their northern offensive collapses, their southern offensive collapses. Everything's collapsing. And so Izum, they crossed the river. And this one down here, one of these down here, this one right here was like quickly taken over by partisans. It was pretty amazing. Like they didn't even plan it; it just happened. So that worked out. And now they're gonna push on this area. So Russia is freaking out. Putin is freaking out. And what did he do? He mobilized. He partially mobilized Russia and called up, he says, 300,000 men, but Ukraine is saying, no, they're actually calling up 1.2 million men. But here's the thing. It's called a partial mobilization. And here's how they do it. Russia doesn't pull from the city directly, from the western half of Russia, where the white Russians live. No, Russia or Putin is pulling all the men out from the eastern side of Asia, the Asian Russians basically, and basically the criminals, not criminals. Well, they call them criminals, but they're protesters. If you were trying to protest against the war, the Russian government grabs you and conscripts you and sends you to war. For real. So that's what the Russian army is made of right now. Russia is basically sending their minorities and their dissidents into a meat grinder to be killed for them by Ukraine. Because what's Ukraine gonna do? Not fight back? Of course they're gonna fight back. They're gonna retake their territory. Of course they're going to. But Russia is like partially mobilizing. it's pulling its minorities and its dissidents and throwing them into the meat grinder to slow down Ukraine from taking back its own territory. Like it's a horrible tragedy. So I'm aware of this. I'm watching it unfold. I'm seeing. I see the mass graves. I see the Russian mass graves. I see the here. Hey, look at the conscripts that they're getting. Let me show you a video of the conscripts. Where is it? Where is it? I just had it. Here, start again. Start again.
Все вернулся. Кто как едет, то так воевать будет. Попробуйте, некрасиво. Моя-то, ты застегните ему портки, а? Боец невидимого фронта. Давай мы одевайся, не позорь российскую армию. Что такое-то? Застегните его, а то он совсем бедолашка. Поедет без портов. Все вернулся. Кто как едет, то так воевать будет.
Попробуйте, некрасиво.
Моя-то, ты застегните ему портки, а? Боец невидимого фронта. Давай мы одевайся, не позорь российскую армию. Что такое-то? Ёптать.
So that's the conscripts being sent over. Now, I've read two different people's opinions on Russia. One is a Russian, and one's like a guy who's like a foreign relations expert. The Russian guy explained why this mobilization is destined to fail. And the Russian guy said, because the Soviet Union was something to be feared. It was absolutely terrifying. It was for real terrifying, the Soviet Union. Because it was like organized and had resources and was always prepared for war. So the way he explained it was that on paper, Russia had like a ginormous army, ginormous, but it's impossible to maintain a ginormous army. You can't do it. You cannot maintain a ginormous army. You can't do it. It's just too expensive. Those men are better used in like producing actual stuff that Russia needs to have its economy go, rather than sitting around in a barracks performing drills. That's what they need, right? You can't sustain a ginormous army. But on paper, the Soviet Union had a ginormous army. But the guy said it was because like it was a dehydrated army is what he called it. He didn't call it that, but it was basically a dehydrated army. All the cells and all the major components were there, but just like deflated. So you had a commanding officer, and you might have like two people in like not even anybody. You know, you have a commanding officer commanding his like troops that are like not there, but on paper they're ready to be filled. And he's got his barracks that are sitting there empty. They're maintained, they're like stocked, they're ready to go, but they're empty. Right. So he's basically said the reason why Soviet Union was able to instantly create a ginormous army is because it maintained the infrastructure necessary to train it, to make it all happen. Like as soon as you call in those people, all those men that get called in get sent into ready-made barracks, into ready-made organizations. I'm not an army guy. I don't know how the thing works. I don't know the names. But with a ready-made commanding officer who's already seen combat, who already knows what's going on, and with ready-made like maintained equipment. So yeah, the Soviet Union was terrifying. You had this just like totalitarian bear sitting at your doorstep ready to eat you. Like, and you're one little country. You're like, right? One little country looking up at this terrifying bear with a huge army. Even if it's only on paper, you know that instantly they can make it. It was just terrifying. Like, holy shit. So no wonder they made NATO. What else are you gonna do? Stand alone against a bear? No way. No way. So of course they made NATO, dude. They were terrified of that. But the thing is that what happened? The Soviet Union collapsed. They're not. The Soviet Union is not around anymore. They collapsed. They couldn't keep it together. And in the 90s they collapsed, and all the countries that were once globbed on into the stuck inside the Soviet Union, they broke free and became their own independent countries. And so their resources were no longer being siphoned out of them and sent to Moscow. Now their resources, and I'm making the Soviet Union terrifying, but now their resources were being used for their own good, but directed by their own people. So it wasn't being siphoned away. You know, the wealth of a country wasn't siphoned away. Okay, so now we have Russia, which is just a shadow of its former glory. Like, everyone thinks of Russia like the way they thought of USSR, but it's nothing like it. Like this Russian guy was saying, Russia could not maintain the level of preparedness that the Soviet Union had. They wanted to, but they couldn't do it. They could not do it. So everything started. So they had a guy in the 90s who was like an ex-Soviet guy, and he knew what had to be done. So he came in and he made the necessary cuts. He's like, yo, if we're gonna he basically wanted to do what the US did, which is make a small but mobile, a small enough army to defend home, and one army to defend home, and a small enough mobile army to do international strikes. But that's it, right? That's all they could really maintain. And the guy knew what was up. So he made the cuts that had to be done, this general, because he was smart. But by doing the thing that had to be done, he made a lot of enemies. Nobody liked the guy. Nobody liked him, even though he had to do what he had to do, and what he did was smart, and what he did was right. Nobody liked him. So he was one of the first people to get fired under the corrupt scheme, right? Under the corrupt scheme, it's not about what you how competent you are. It's how well you can kiss up to power. So the guy that they put into position was incompetent. He was incompetent. But he knew how to play the politics to keep all the power players happy. So Russia's army totally deteriorated. So no longer are they able to absorb a massive amount of men and train them into an army. They can't do it anymore. They don't have the infrastructure. They can't do it. What they're gonna do, what they believe in, is being trained by your unit. Individuals who are conscripted are instant, don't get much training. They're trained by the unit in the field. But the problem is the units in the field are decimated. There's nobody there who their unit isn't really comprised, isn't cohesive. So these newbies are getting dropped into units that can't really train them. So they're not getting training. They're just gonna get their cannon fodder. They're literally cannon fodder to die. And the reason why Putin has to do it is because if he doesn't, then he must admit failure. And if he admits failure, then he's gonna lose power. So Putin is doing it not because he thinks he can win, but because he can delay a threat to his power. That's why he's doing it. Not because he can win, but because he's going to try to fight off threats to his power. That's one thought from a Russian guy. This foreign relations guy who I read, this other guy, said was of another thinking. He was thinking, look it, Putin would not do this. He would not, because the result of him doing this, even though he's not pulling from the cities, even though he's not pulling from the wealthy white Russians in the West, the western half of Russia, but in Moscow and St. Petersburg, they're still protesting. and there's still a threat to his power. So this other guy is saying Putin would not be doing this unless he thought he could win, unless he thought something could happen and do that. I tend to go with the Russian guy and say that Putin's doing this out of desperation and it's not going to work. It's just going to slow down Ukraine from getting its territory. But I tell you all this to give you context of what's going on, because I have to tell you about another thing that I can connect it to, right? It's not here. That's one car of the train. Here's the next cart of the train that I'm going to connect. So remember about 6 months ago, I had a very bad conversation with my neighbor. My neighbor's from Canada and he's a white guy, but he has a disability. So he's deaf. So it's difficult for us to have conversations. Number two, he's not on social media, so I can't type to him. He has a hearing aid, and I don't do sign language. I don't know sign language. He has a hearing aid, but the hearing aid is not so good. Anyways, we were having our conversation yesterday, and this neighbor went to live in Russia 3 times in his life. He lived in Russia, so that's why he feels he has a lot of insight into what's going on in Russia, because he lived there for 3 different times. He visited Russia. Anyways, we were 6 months ago, we got into a major argument where I was yelling at him, and I became very upset. And I looked very bad to the community because he was repeating to me Russian propaganda, and I couldn't stop him because, what am I going to do? He can't hear me. And I can't really communicate it. I need to show him visuals, but I can't show him visuals because he's not on the internet anymore. So, and I got upset, and I made a whole show about it. That was 6 months ago. Now we're 6 months later. We have witnessed Russian war crimes. We have witnessed the horrors of Russian aggression. Everybody knows that Russia is the one who is doing this. 6 months later, I talked to my neighbor, the same neighbor, and he repeats to me the same Russian propaganda. Even now, he repeats the Russian propaganda. And I can't believe it. I mean, I can believe it, right? This is what Yuri Burbanov was talking about when he says active measures. My neighbor, my Canadian neighbor, his brain has been scrambled by Russian active measures. He's he went to Russia. I can give him information, good information, and it doesn't change his mind. He continues to repeat Russian propaganda. So let me give you an example. My neighbor repeated the Russian propaganda that it wasn't Russia that started the Russian invasion. It was NATO that started the Russian invasion because NATO expanded eastward. So Russia had no choice but to invade Ukraine. But that's not true. That's not true at all. That's Russian propaganda. Let's look at the actual history of the expansion of NATO. Let's look at the actual history, okay? So we see here the original, the OG people of 1949, the OG members of NATO are in dark green, right? These are the people who were individual countries, right? France was its own country. I still have French franc in my shoebox because I was in France in 1997 when France had its own currency, the French franc. For real, dude. It was madness. It was madness to travel because everyone had their own currency, so you always had to change money. And if you lived near a border, it was weird. So anyways, so these were the OG people, and they were terrified of Russia, or of the USSR, because remember, at that time, USSR came up to here, to East Germany. So yeah, these people were terrified. They were terrified of the Soviet bear. Right? Okay. Then the Soviet Union collapses, and each of these Eastern, and then Germany became unified, and then they joined NATO, right? Bit by bit, they joined NATO. Once Germany got unified, the whole thing joined NATO. Okay, and then these guys broke free of Russian influence. So as they broke free of Russian influence, they too joined NATO. So the latest people to join NATO were Croatia and Albania. Are these guys east? Russia's way over here. These guys are on the Mediterranean toward Italy, toward NATO. These guys were in 2004, almost 20 years ago. So, and then Norway, that's the border they share, was in 1949. They're the OG member of NATO. So what are the Russian borders? And then Turkey, who came in way late, they're not at all, they're not at all Russia. They're down south. They're nowhere near Russia, dude. No one's expanding eastward toward Russia. Right? Not since 2009. And these guys are over here. So when Russia says, oh, you're expanding eastward, they're lying. They said nothing about, their last time to talk about expanding eastward was 2004. 2004, almost 20 years ago. There's no eastward expansion. The invasion of Ukraine could not be blamed on NATO eastward expansion. No, it's a false Russian talking point that the brainwashed Canadian keeps repeating. Okay, the next Russian talking point that the neighbor kept repeating was that NATO put nuclear bombs on the border of Russia. No, false. That's a Russian talking point. Let's look at the actual stuff. Here are the nuclear bases in the OG members. Nuclear bases are in the OG members of NATO, way over here. And then here are nuclear air bases. Nuclear air bases where you can fly a plane out of and drop a nuclear bomb from a plane. Those are all OG members, of NATO. Right? Italy and the Netherlands, Belgium, all OG members of NATO. Right? That's it. And then over here, Turkey, which is down south. Here's the border here, right there. That's the border of Russia and NATO. Let's see, where else? Where else is the border of Russia and NATO? Right there? I think that's it. Oh, and right here. That's the border of Russia and NATO. That's it. So NATO nukes over here and over here. Where are Russian nukes? Russian nukes right there, dude. Right there. As close as you can get. So deep over here. And all along the border of Russia, there's nukes. All ready to go. Look, there's nothing up here, but Russia's got nukes up there. So the excuse of saying that NATO put nukes on the border of Russia is false. It's false. But yet this brainwashed Canadian guy keeps repeating Russian propaganda, even when you give him good information. It's almost like active measures happen to his brain. Reflexive conditioning. Okay, the third point that this demoralized person said. The third point was that NATO put troops on the border of Russia. No, that's false. What actually happens? There are more Russian troops outside of Russia in countries bordering NATO than there are US troops outside of the United States in the countries bordering Russia. So Russia's got more forward troops than US has forward troops. Do I have a better map than that one? I thought I did. But here, let's just use this one and zoom in as much as we can. All right. We got troops in Norway, a little bit. We got troops in Poland. And that's it. Norway and Poland. Okay. Russia has troops in Belarus. Russia has troops in Donbass. Russia has troops in Crimea. Russia has troops in Georgia. Russia has troops in this little tiny country in between. I think that's Moldova or something. So, in fact, Russia used these troops in Belarus to attack Ukraine. They put more troops in there to attack Ukraine. So, Russia is by far the aggressor. They have more troops, more nukes, and they invade their neighbors. But my Canadian neighbor, for some reason, keeps repeating Russian propaganda over and over and over again. He tells me all the time he went to Russia 3 times. What did they do to him there? The problem is this. There's a good chance that Italy will be run by a fascist government after next week's elections. This isn't exaggeration or rhetorical overstatement. The party that's heir to Mussolini's political movement is literally poised to win. So literally, the fascists of Italy are sitting there and they're watching Ukraine. They're watching what's happening in Russia. And they're saying, man, that's exactly what I want to happen here in Italy. The Italian fascists are seeing Putin failing but succeeding in killing dissidents and minorities. That's Putin's success to fascists. What Putin is going to succeed is sending poor minority Russians and dissidents to be killed in war. That's his success. And the Italian fascists want to emulate that. So let's look at Italy as a warning for us, the United States. Because we too have our fascist movement. It's called the Republican Party. They're white supremacists who have already tried to overthrow our government. And they're proud about it. They're like they're proud that they tried to overthrow our government. There was this one politician who was talking about how they tried to get the vice president to overthrow the government and it didn't work. And they'll try again. Yeah, the Republicans are already saying if they win the U.S. House of Representatives, they're going to impeach Biden. For what? For what reason? They don't have a reason. Their only reason is because Trump was impeached. That's their reason. What? That has nothing to do with democracy. That has nothing to do with reason. That has nothing to do with truth. It has everything to do with power. They're dangerous. Republicans are dangerous. Already, Republicans here in the United States find common cause with Putin and other right-wing fascists. Here's a little experiment. Go talk to a Republican and ask them what they think about the fascist takeover of Italy. And I bet you that they will agree with it. That they agree with Mussolini. Man, there's so much. I can't even get to it all. All right, here, Greg Sargent. Oh, you can't even see it. All right, but Trump also delivered a deeply serious message with real-world implications. He fully expects the GOP Congress to use its power to place him outside the reach of any and all investigations and prosecutions, now and into the future. At bottom, this is an effort to strike a new kind of bargain with Republicans. He delivers them his base, and they reward him by placing him beyond accountability and above the law. At the rally, Trump uncorked a long, angry rant about the investigations he's facing. These probes are scrutinizing his hoarding of national security secrets, his scheming to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power after his 2020 loss, and his incitement of mob violence against the United States government. I've been harassed, investigated, defamed, slandered, and persecuted like no other president, Trump seethed, ripping into the unhinged persecution he supposedly faces. He also said, what they've done, the radical Democrats and the deep state, is a form of political repression unlike anything our nation has ever seen. It's a disgrace. And JD, you gotta get it stopped. JD, you gotta get it stopped. Trump repeated other versions of this formulation throughout his speech. See, these are not idle ravings. They are better understood as a directive, as a declaration of what Trump actually does expect a GOP-controlled Congress to do for him. And you will hear this more as Trump holds rallies for other House and Senate candidates. He is telling the guy, J.D. Vance, to stop the investigations, or J.D., stop the investigations into Donald Trump. Donald Trump fully expects, Donald Trump, the way he envisions the government is through power. He wants whoever holds the power gets to use the government power to destroy their enemies. That's what he tried to do when he was president. He tried to use the government power to destroy his enemies. That whole Durham investigation that we spent like years on and millions of dollars, that was all for nothing. It was all a bunch of nothing. It was an attempt to get Trump to go after his political enemies, and it failed. It didn't work because the U.S. justice system, still worked, I guess. But Donald Trump is really, really dangerous. The U.S. Justice Department needs to indict him. They need to take him. They need to make him accountable for his crimes. Look at all the incitement that he's been doing. Let's see. All right, hold on. There's so much. It's this one. Designing solutions. What's this about? I don't remember. I can't. Okay, hold on. Okay. I don't know why I grabbed that. Here's an aside. Okay, here's an aside. So when I talk about infrastructure, like it's not like a thing that I'm just making up. I'm just blabbering about. In fact, here. So that I have to go back another one. No, it's right here. Okay, remember this? Remember how I talked about, wow, look at those fingertips. Look at how all those connections in the fingertip and then like nothing out here. So you can really, really feel things well out here, but out here, you don't really feel cuts so much on your fingers. But on your fingertip, a lot, right? Because that's where all the stuff is. That's all the sensation. That's where you're most sensitive. All right. Barcelona. Look at these two cities, right? Atlanta, Georgia, is a population of 2.5 million people in 1990. It's probably a lot more now, like a lot more now. But 30 years later, it's got to be huge now. And then in 1990, Barcelona, 2.8 million. 2.8 million people, 2.5 million people. Like the area, the amount of area is just ridiculous. How much distance there is. Now let's look at the equivalent infrastructure. The blood vessels that connect the city are almost non-existent. Huge swaths of the city are just like totally unrepresented, just totally not represented at all. In contrast, Barcelona, look how tight are the networks there. Look how well connected the city is to one another, all those people. There's way more connections in such a tight area, and because of that, they're able to build up so many more people in a condensed area. If Atlanta could build a network like this, build it up close, could they build a kind of similar density? Who knows? But it would be fantastic, I would think. I loved it in Europe to find cities that were connected by the subway. Like my first experience with the subway was the metro in France, and that was amazing. It just blew my mind that you could get around a whole city just through a subway. Like it just blew my mind. Yeah, the fact that we don't have this just kills me. Why can't we have nice things? White supremacists. All right, what else? That was an aside. Dude, today is just all over the place. Oh, real GDP growth. Yeah, isn't that fantastic? So so Italy, right? Italy's going to have an election, and the fascists are going to win. The fascists looked at the GDP growth of Russia and said, look at that amazing growth that they're having in fascist Russia. Wouldn't that be good for Italy as well? And I guess those people are going to win government. What's happening? What's happening here? I don't know. What's happening, Italy? Tell me what's going on. How can the people in Italy be watching what's happening in Russia and then want to emulate it? Make it make sense. I don't understand. Intergenerational wealth. So, baby boomers, when their median age was 35, had about 20% of the wealth, and by the time they were in their 60s, they had 55% of the wealth. For Gen X, that's my generation. By the time they're in the mid 30s, they had 9% of the wealth, and then they ate shit in the boom, the bust, whatever. Was that in the that must be the 2008 financial crisis that just killed us. And then 10 years later, yeah. All right. And then millennials, where's Z? They're not even on this thing. So something's not right. So these are the special forces. Russia's special forces. They're a bunch of bullies. That's all they are. They're just bullies. And they have a special day in Russia where they can go around and bully people. And they wear their colors and bully people. I think most of them are dead now. How Trump weaponized the Department of Justice for political purposes. This goes without saying, but here's a reminder. Trump was king of politicizing the Department of Justice during his presidency. Here's a list of political opponents that he publicly said should be investigated. 2016 Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton for the Uranium One deal. The Clinton campaign for the supposed Russian collusion. The Clinton Foundation for alleged corruption with foreign countries. Former President Barack Obama for not doing enough to stop Russian election meddling. The Obama administration for illegal surveillance of the Trump campaign. President Joe Biden for participating in a treasonous coup against his campaign while vice president. Rep. Adam Schiff for treason during the 2019 impeachment probe. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi for supposedly lying about her ties to Russia. Senator Mark Warner for illegally discussing the Mueller probe. Senator Richard Blumenthal for lying about his military service. Former Elijah Cummings for the corrupt mess in Baltimore. The anonymous New York Times op-ed author for threatening national security. Tech giant for Google for treason and working with the Chinese government. The FBI to see if it infiltrated the Trump campaign with informants. The Justice Department to see if it infiltrated the Trump campaign with informants. Special Counsel Robert Mueller for his conflicts of interests. Mueller prosecutor Andrew Weissman for unspecified wrongdoings. Former FBI Director James Comey for his lies and leaks. Former FBI Director Andrew McCabe for political donations received by his wife. Ex-British spy Christopher Steele for his phony and corrupt dossier, quote, quote. Opposition research firm Fusion GPS for its coordination with Steele. Former DOJ official Bruce Orr for his meetings with Christopher Steele. Former FBI agent Peter Strzok about his political texts with Lisa Page. Former FBI lawyer Lisa Page about her political texts with Strzok. Oops. No, what? Shit. I was so close to finishing. MSNBC host Joe Scarborough regarding the possible quote-quote murder of his intern in 2021. So yeah, Donald Trump attempted to politicize the Department of Justice a lot. He did. He totally politicized it. That was the whole that was the entirety of the Durham investigation. It was a political witch hunt to discredit the Mueller investigation. So Donald Trump, bad guy. Italy, fascist. What else do I got? Trump Darvo. What's this? Darvo. So yeah, here we go. A MAGA glossary for dummies. So education is indoctrination. So when prosecution is persecution. So, but only when it's done against their people. Like if you prosecute their people, then it's persecution. Losing is winning. Insurrection is patriotism. Violence is victimhood. Killing women is pro-life. Anti-racism woke is racism. Anti-fascists are fascists. FBI agents are criminals. So yeah, basically, Republicans are like doing Darvo, which is they deny attack by reversing victim of an offender. That's why the traitor Donald Trump is a patriot to them, and the investigators who are looking into Donald Trump are criminals. Like right. It's so easy to make it make sense. Like, look at this BS, right? Several people were arrested in the UK for protesting King Charles, including a woman charged for breach of the peace for just holding a sign that says abolish monarchy. So that's the problem of having a king. All your rights are subject to the king. Like, they can take away, all your rights are arbitrary. They can be taken away at the whim of a king, of the monarch. Like, aren't you glad that the people who founded the United States got rid of kings? Kings are terrible. Kings are terrible. They continue to be terrible. Monarchy is terrible. Democracy is the way to go. All right. What have I got here? You know, I was supposed to continue on my discussion of great points to resurrect the United States. The next point that I had was universal health care, Medicare for everyone. But like, man, I've talked about it so much, and so many people know about it. Like, I don't know what else to say. I didn't really build anything more to my train station because, like, I'm kind of bored of Minecraft. Well, it's lonely playing by myself. I don't want to play anymore. Like, I'm just like, oh, blah. Like, I like having a platform, but like, man, this game is not fun for me anymore. I need someone to play with, or like maybe start a new world. And I can go somewhere else and build, but I can't, not in this world, because I'm in its creative mode. I can't change it back. I mean, I can play it in survival, but like, yeah, no. Yeah, no. So, yeah, what else do I want to talk about? Yeah, I talked shit about China state, because I'm following their minister that goes to their representative to the United States, but I also see tweets from their representative to other countries, and Chinese state representatives to other countries, their ministers talk mad shit about the United States. Their minister talks okay to us. He talks shit to us about Taiwan, but the Chinese state people to other countries talk mad shit about the United States. So I have no problem calling out China state. I have no problem. Like I'm not an expert. I don't have to be an expert to see facts, because what China state does over and over and over again is they try to impose their version of reality by repeating it. So, like, I just repeat mine. I keep broadcasting the truth. It's easy. Broadcast the truth. China is the aggressor. China state is the aggressor. China state is the source of tensions. China is the one sending drones into Taiwan. China is the one telling Taiwan who it can and cannot see. China is the one telling Taiwan where it can and cannot go with its stuff. China is the one trying to dictate its resources, Taiwan's resources. China is the source of all this conflict. How does this relate to the United States? The United States has relations with Taiwan, and the United States has a moral obligation to help people defend their freedom. And we're pretty shitty at fulfilling its obligation equally. Like, we're pretty bad at it. But just because we've been bad at it doesn't mean we should just forsake our obligation in the future. And in this case, the Taiwanese people don't want to do it. It's not about what other people say. Like, China keeps directing its rhetoric toward other outside to convince outside people. But it's not about what I saw outside people say. I listen to what Taiwan says. Taiwan says it's independent. Taiwan repeats it wants to be independent. It doesn't matter what China tells me. It doesn't matter what China says. It's unfortunate China is going to wreck its relations with everyone else because of what Taiwan says. But that's what they're going to do. China is going to wreck their relations with the whole world because of what Taiwan says. It wants to put the blame on the United States, just like Russia wants to put the blame on the United States for the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It's the same thing. How can we control the way China acts toward Taiwan? We cannot. China demonstrates its intentions every day. The way it directs its rhetoric toward the outside is very hostile. But you have to understand its hostilities are pointed at the Taiwanese people. All those declarations of war are pointed at the Taiwanese people, not at the outside world, dude. It's not at us. We're not the ones saying Taiwan's independent. Taiwan says Taiwan's independent. So when you say you're gonna crush them under the wheel of history, you're talking to the Taiwanese people, not to us. You think that's gonna make them want to join with you? Yeah, dude, I don't need to be an expert of China to hear what the Taiwanese people are saying, and then hear what the Chinese people are saying, or the Chinese state is saying. Like, and I hear what you're saying, dudes. Just like you have multiple accounts, sock puppets. I got it, dude. I know. I hear how you talk to other states about us. That's hilarious. It's hilarious. You talk mad shit about us to other states. Mad shit. I can't believe how bad you talk to us about us to other states. You talk horrible to us about to other states. Yeah. Yeah, you know why everyone's like, "Oh, look at how well you guys did in raising the lifespan of China." That's because of where you put the fucking line. If you put it back a little bit further, go back a little bit. China was doing great until fucking Mao came by and murdered everyone. And then after everyone's fucking dead and the life expectancy drops to like real low after Mao like kills people with famine, after Mao does that, that's when you start counting. Oh, now we'll start counting. Now we'll put the thing here. Your system isn't that great, China. You better hold on to it before you can export it to other people, especially when they say they would fight you if you try. All right, what's the next thing? All right, here's an aside. So I was playing Apex Legends, and the circle was shrunk to a pretty small area. And the high ground was split into two. A little tiny, like, not so good high ground where I was, and then a pretty good high ground over there where they were. But they had to leave their high ground. They couldn't stay there. They had to leave it because the circle shrunk. So they're down pretty low. But we were concentrated. And yeah, that's true. We had high ground, but it was all three of us in one area. So what happened was these people down low, the down low people who did not have high ground, what they did is they split their attack. They attacked from three different sides. They had three different points of attack. So we had to split up here. We had one point, but we had to split our fire three ways. and it was pretty uncoordinated. And so eventually these guys worked their way up and threw grenades at us and killed us because we were concentrated in one spot. So the moral of the story is, just because you have high ground, it isn't the end of the story. You can't just be content with high ground. You have to have multiple points on high ground, and you have to be prepared to rotate. You can't just be stuck in one spot. So, yeah, I failed twice at that. That happened to me twice. I remember that the spot. I remember it happened the second time too. I'm like, damn it. And I forgot to rotate. Even if you have high ground, you have to rotate. All right. Yeah, why am I like making such a hard, like, why am I trying to like, people treated me a certain way because they assumed I'm American when I traveled throughout the world. People made assumptions about me because I was an American. So they treated me that way because they assumed because I was an American, and they believed all Americans were the same. It happened in Europe in the 90s with Swedes. They treated me like shit. They treated me like, not like, well, yeah, pretty shitty. But like, not overtly shitty. Like, snarky shitty. Hiddenly shitty. But after they like poked a few times and then like nothing happened, and they started to get to know me, they're like, oh wait, he's no, not all Americans are the same. Oh, and then they changed. Yeah, and Swedes are pretty cool. When I was in China, I was in Dali at a hostel, and one of the guys staying at the hostel was Iranian. He was Iranian from Iran. He did not like me. He did not like me at all. He talked to me, and he talked mad shit about the West. He's all saying about how like, oh, yeah, look at me. Look at how I can speak English. It's like, I can also speak 4 other languages. And in my language, in Persian, Farsi, Persian, like, we can say things much better than what in your crude English. Yeah, our language is far superior to your vulgar whore of a language that just takes from whatever and doesn't really say very much. And doesn't have very nice sounds like my beautiful language does. Oh, that's just not the only one I speak. I speak all these other ones too. You American pig. That guy cheated me like shit. And I was like, okay, whatever. But it wasn't overt, right? He didn't do it overtly. It wasn't like, he didn't say it so bluntly. He did it really, really like nicely, but like, yeah. But in a way that I knew what he was talking about, like what he meant, like, and like I just didn't rise to it because I was like, okay, sure, okay, cool. Speak more language. That's neat. I think we should learn more languages too. That's neat. Cool. And then he was like, oh, what? And then after a while, I was like, okay. Whatever. He stopped being so hostile. He just became neutral. God, it happened a lot. Like, a lot of people made assumptions because I was American. They thought I was like a jingo. Like I was a jingoist. Like all over the world. That's weird. That's a like bad reputation to have for a country. That people assume the white males are jingoists. Am I even white? I guess they looked at me as white. Pale. White enough. I don't know. I could pass. Passing. That's the word, passing. All right. So I watched a video on black holes. Ah! Black holes are neat. They're kind of neat because here, where can I do that? I'm gonna go over here. Because the way black holes work is that like the event horizon. Like, okay, so black holes are weird because like they're both quantum and general relativity. And quantum and general relativity aren't supposed to work well together. They don't really work well together. Or they're not supposed to work well together or something. I don't know. I'm not really that great. Anyways, so we all know like black holes, right? Black holes are objects that are so compact and massive that nothing can escape. Like once you pass a certain line, the gravity becomes so strong that nothing can escape. So we have like the event horizon, right? We'll say that this is. And the black hole is over here. And we're chilling out over here. Okay, so if we're just standing here stationary, we're gonna get sucked into the black hole. And then once we pass this line, we can never go back. Even if we spend all our energy and we fire our engines, we can never make it back across this line. Like not even light can go across this line. So, but if we have our engines, we can fire engines, right? So I need to make fire somehow. Fire our engines. Can you even do fire? I need nether rack probably. What if a campfire? Do campfire. There we go. Campfire. So if you fire your engines to stay still, you can. Okay. So here, now we're firing our engine to stay still, right? So we're not getting sucked into the black hole, but we have to accelerate, right? That means we're moving. We have to keep moving to not fall into the black hole, to stay still. So we're running to stay still. Now, the way quantum mechanics, the quantum theory works, is that there's a vacuum, but in the vacuum of nothingness, in the void, in outer space, there's literally nothing, right? There's nothing at all. But at the quantum level, there's still fluctuations. Instantaneously, a particle will appear. And then poof, disappear right away. Like instantly, all over the place. Instantly, it appear, disappear, appear, disappear. All over the place. Because what happens is when a positive appears, a negative also appears. And when they both appear, they find each other and they annihilate each other instantly. All over the place. All over the vacuum. But it happens so fast that we don't see anything. It looks like nothing's here. Nothing's here. All the time, though. All the time in the vacuum. The particles appear instantly and then disappear. Because when they appear as positive energy and negative energy. And when positive and negative meet, they destroy each other and then they're gone. So they'll appear and then right away, as soon as they appear, they disappear because they meet and they disappear. But so remember here, I told you that that in order to stay still, this guy has to keep firing to keep moving forward. Okay, great. Now the other thing I told you is that space is not really space. There's all the time. There's positive and negative particles appearing and then disappearing instantly, so fast that you can't see them. All right. But if you're moving if you're accelerating, you're no longer in outer space doing nothing. You're moving now. That changes the outer space. If you're not moving, if you're just staying still, the vacuum will be nothing. It'll be empty. Because the positive and negative appear and disappear instantly. So nothing appears in outer space because you're not moving and you're falling into the black hole. Whoa. Everything's falling into the black hole. So if you're not firing your engines, you're not moving, outer space looks empty and you're falling into the black hole. But if you're firing your engines to not fall in the black hole and you look into outer space, you see positive energy everywhere. Everywhere. Why? Here, I gotta change the spaceship so it looks like a spaceship. Why? Why, if you're firing your engine, do you see particles? But if this guy is not firing their engine and they're just falling into the black hole, they see nothing. Why? Why? Okay, and here's where it gets crazy. Because reality, perception, what you perceive, depends on your frame of reference. This guy's frame, his frame is not moving. No acceleration. His frame is not moving. He sees nothing in the vacuum, and he's falling into a black hole. This guy here is firing his engines. Go, 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 go. I don't want to fall into the black hole. Go, 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 go. And what does he see? He sees particles everywhere. The time is the same. Same time in this place and this place. But when this guy looks out the window, he sees particles, he sees positive particles everywhere. When this guy looks out the window and he sees his friend over there firing his engines and the friend's going by because he's not firing his engine, he's falling into the black hole, he doesn't see anything. He doesn't see any particles. He's like, I don't see, he sees nothing. These things are not here. They're not here. So this person talks to him and says, I don't see any particles. I don't see anything. And this person here says, oh my God, it's full of light. And this guy says, I don't see anything. Oh my gosh, there's particles everywhere. Oh my gosh, everywhere, particles, light everywhere. And this person says, nope, it's black. I don't see anything. What? How? Remember I told you this line here is the event horizon? Once you cross this line, there's no going back. You can never go back. Nothing will bring you back once you cross this line. Nothing. Like maybe God, right? I don't know. But outside of God, nothing. Not even light can get out of this once you cross this line. So remember how I told you that that in outer space, in the vacuum, all the time, instantly, particles are appearing and then disappear instantly. Appear and then disappear because they annihilate each other. Positive, negative, boom, gone. Positive, negative, boom, gone. Positive, negative, boom, gone. Instantly. So fast that they don't interact. And if they don't interact, then it's not really there. Over here, though, right? Something's different here. The event horizon. So what is the thing that happens? One half of the particle appears here, and the other half appears here. And this one gets shut off. Pew, pew. And this one never crosses. It never comes back. Since this one and this one don't meet, since they do not meet, they don't annihilate each other. So, since they don't annihilate each other, this one is real. It's real. It's there. It's alive. It's there. It's going. It's alive. And this one, because it didn't meet, this one here, it's real. It's alive. It's there. It's a real particle. A real negative particle? Yeah, right? Over here, where we live, there's no negative energy. There's no negative energy. Because the moment you have negative energy, it finds a positive energy and they annihilate each other. There's more positive energy than there's negative energy. Because if there were more negative energy, there would be no positive. It would annihilate each other. And if it was balanced, there would be nothing. So it's not balanced and it's not negative. There is positive energy in the universe. Positive energy in the universe. Okay. So at the event horizon, in the vacuum, always these create and destroy. Create, destroy instantly. Positive, negative, boom, gone. At the event horizon, positive, negative, and negative are ripped apart. They're torn apart. They're ripped apart. The negative goes to the black hole. And the positive goes out and becomes real. The farther away it goes, the more real it becomes. The farther away from the black hole it becomes, the more real it becomes. So when you're this close to the event horizon, so this guy who's firing his engines sees light everywhere. Sees light everywhere. They're not going to fall into the black hole. They see light everywhere because the negative energy of these particles fell into the black hole, and they became real as they went out. This guy who is not firing his engines, they're not firing engines. They're falling in. From their frame, they don't see anything. They see nothing. To them, it's black. It's dark. From their frame, there's nothing. They see no particles, no light, nothing. Nothing. But these two are in the same reality. They're both true. Both are true. Both are real. This guy here is real. These particles are real. This guy here is true. There's nothing there. True. There's nothing there. True. There's everything there. True. Everything's there. True. Nothing is there. True. Nothing is there. This guy not going into the black hole. This guy going into the black hole. Now wait. When you're far from the black hole, when you're far, from the black hole, it's way over there now, right? It's way over there. Now, no one's firing his engine, not firing his engine. When you look out your window, you see empty space. When you look out your window, you see empty space because this far away, the particles in empty space, they appear and disappear instantly. There's no event horizon to take away the negative energy. Now, what does this mean? The positive energy goes out and the negative energy goes in. What does that mean? Huh? Negative energy, when you put negative energy into a black hole, Remember, what do black holes do? They eat everything. They are what's left of a star after it collapses in on itself. So all the stuff that made a star collapses in on itself. What is negative energy? It's the opposite of positive energy. And remember, the only thing that lives outside a black hole, or the only thing in the world, is positive energy. So the center of a black hole, the absolute center of a black hole, is positive energy. The absolute center is positive energy. So what this does, what happens is, this negative energy goes into the black hole and cancels out some of the positive energy, a tiny, tiny little bit. So over time, the black hole will shrink and evaporate to nothingness. If it's small. If it's massive, yeah, it will never happen. But if it's tiny, it will shrink, evaporate into nothingness. So, so black holes can evaporate and disappear and take away all the negative energy with it. One more thing I want to tell you about. Black hole can also be thought of not only when you cross the event horizon of a black hole, time and space flip. Time and space flip. Time and space flip. So that no matter what, you're going to go to the center. You're going to the black hole, no matter what. You're going in, no matter what. No matter what you do, it's going in. That's everything. Your future becomes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears, until it becomes the black hole. Because the black hole is everything. Becomes everything, literally. Your time shrinks into nothing. Your timeline shrinks to like a point where the black hole becomes everything. Think of this as, I like to think of the event horizon as death, as mortality. Because once you cross this line, your light doesn't come out anymore. But I see how when people die and us humans do this mourning ritual, I see how humans can dump their negative energy and create positive energy from someone's death. In a way, it's like a model of how people can use black holes, like that you dump the negative energy in and you make the positive energy into real things far away. And then you get the hell out of there. Get the hell out of there. You don't want to die. Get the hell out of there. But leave your negative energy with them. And then they will disappear. And go on to the next. So maybe they really are doorways to other dimensions. All right. I think it's a good place to stop. All right. Until next time, be sure to vote. Make sure you're registered to vote. Like, it's that time again. We got to do the big push. We got to make democracy real every time. We got to do the dance every time. So make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure your neighbors are registered to vote. That they have their they have a way of getting there. Like in Oregon, we found out Oregon's the #1 best place to vote because it's the easiest to vote here. So yeah, I love Oregon. We should make it this easy to vote all over the country. As easy as it is in Oregon, everyone should have it this easy. I vote for people in my pajamas after looking them up on the internet. It's fantastic. Oh, and then we can even do ranked choice voting. That would be even better. All right, until next time, America. Peace. Pogo Kiddo out. Stop.